it's like you don't know the direction that you need to take. You might think that you need to always land a certain way, but it might not be that way. And sometimes like you need to fucking free fall for a bit in order for a smooth landing for where you're going. So just breathe, brother.
What up, everybody? Welcome to Just Effing Go podcast with myself, Samuel Jimenez, and my co-host, Charlie Herrera Villar. We are on episode 11 of Just Effing Go podcast. We're excited. Thank y'all for joining us into the new journey into the double digits. Feeling good? Feeling good? How you doing, Charlie?
I'm doing good, brother. I am there's a couple of changes coming, couple of things on the horizon coming up. We'll see how long we ride this wave for. But yeah, ultimately, good. Changes. How you doing, brother?
You know, we've had better weeks. What are you drinking right now? We're both drinking a little bit this morning, this
I got a little
afternoon.
smorgasbord.
A smorgasbord of offerings.
Beverages. Yeah, I got coffee, I got a denogonizer, and then I got some agua.
Some water. 3 beverages for the gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also drinking. I just finished my coffee. I have some water as well, and I'm drinking a dope beer, Death and Taxes from Moonlight Brewing in Santa Rosa. One of my favorite. Just like it's a black lager. So it's crisp. It's delicious. But yeah, the week was had better weeks, I should say. But you know what? We're here. We're alive. I'm here. I'm alive. So that's blessed. I'm blessed in a lot of ways. I'm very fortunate. As we've recorded this podcast, to be able to speak about a lot of things. To also be in a situation where it's not as dire as a lot of people that I know. So, as weird as the week may have been, I always try to keep perspective and say, it's not the end of the road. I was laid off this week for the 3rd time this year. 3 times in 1 year. I've never been unemployed in my life before. I've never filed for unemployment or I guess what is it taking unemployment at any other point in my life. And then this year will be laid off 3 times due to COVID related things. So it's this one hit a little different. But like I said, I mean, try to keep perspective. And I'm a person that's hopeful in a lot of ways. As inherent as pessimism may be in me sometimes, or I wouldn't even say call it pessimistic. I would say oftentimes I'm like a contrarian in a lot of ways. If anything, just to play devil's advocate and hear different points. So I wouldn't say that I'm pessimistic. I feel like I'm a very optimistic person in the way that I approach life. But those pessimistic feelings can seep in every now and then, and it's about how you handle them and how you manage them. So it'll be interesting. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, man. You know, there's this thing. My boy told me this one thing, and I'm not sure. He said it's a saying like in India, and it's kind of about being comfortable in the highway.
Shit.
It's
All
kind
right.
of about
Anyways.
being comfortable in the moment, which is like, if it's hot, be hot. If it's cold, be cold. And there's times where I just kind of remind myself of that, like, yo, you're feeling it. Feel the wave in that moment. Embrace that, because honestly, sometimes the feelings that you're feeling obviously are not going to be permanent, and it's temporary, both good and bad. And they balance each other out. They make those other moments those moments. The good moments make the bad moments feel bad, and the bad moments make the good moments feel really good. Um, it's just really hard for certain people to be within those and to just even enjoy that moment. There's times where whenever I feel hella happy, I instantly have this fucking overthought. You know what I mean? And I'm like, this ain't gonna last. You know what I mean?
You
Like,
know,
when's this
yeah.
shit gonna end?
Sarah and I talk about all the time because at times, honestly, I've been having a ton of anxiety over the last week and a half, 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and there's been a lot of positive momentum building, and that's why, to some degree, this feels different than it did in March, or April, whatever it was, um, because there was so much positive momentum building for myself and my family. Um, it was kind of a out of the blue thing to some degree. Um, but Sarah and I talk about that a lot. My wife is that like I get the most anxiety when things are going well. Like when things I feel like are going too well, it's just like I get a ton of anxiety. It starts to feel like a lot of pressure to
Mm.
keep that up.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Keep the
so
momentum up or keep the happiness, like the emotion,
all
or
of it, all of it, like the momentum, the happiness, like the positivity when things are going really well, like my anxiety is just sometimes through the roof. I'm like, and we talk
mm,
about it, and she's like, as people who to some degree grow up in chaos, that's where you can thrive. So sometimes
mm.
it feels more comfortable when things aren't necessarily great, when they're just not so good. You feel
It
like, all
gives you
right, this
something
is
to climb up to.
yeah. And like I guess when you some degree feel the momentum and you're getting towards the top, you're like everything can go wrong. Now there's only there's like when you're at the bottom, there's only one way to go is up, right? But then when you
Right.
start to climb, you realize, fuck, I
You're
can
scared of
fall.
heights.
There's a
Yeah.
fall that could come.
Right. And I feel that way all the time. I feel that way when it comes to my family, when it comes to happiness, right? When I'm starting not to feel that way when it comes to finances, because I felt that way in the beginning of the pandemic. And don't get me wrong, I still worry about being able to provide, but more than anything, I feel worried about, like, do I when it comes to my kids, like when it comes to my daughters or something happening to them, when I'm like hugging them and they feel so good and everything feels so happy, I start freaking out about, like, am I ever gonna lose them? Am I gonna lose them before I get lost? You know what I'm saying? Is something else like that gonna take them away? And I told my mom, and we kind of tell each other these things now because she has similar anxiety issues like I do. There's a song like, if you're happy, if you know it, clap your hands, but it's if you're happy and you know it, overthink. You know what I mean? And when I sing that to myself during the moments of that I should be super happy, and I recognize you're overthinking. You're not in the moment. You're not in the present. Okay, things can end, but they're fucking here right now. Enjoy the here right now. When those moments that get difficult come, and it's easier to say that when things are happening well in your life. But if you can remind yourself during those downtimes that this is also temporary, that it will pass as well, and you're still alive, you still have an opportunity to build, and you've been down before, you've climbed up, climb
It's
back up.
true. It's true, man. I should say it wasn't necessarily like I wasn't necessarily laid off, and that's the hard part about it, right? It's like it's a to some degree a permanent closure at this point of the restaurant that I was helping run, due to a landlord dispute that comes from like some of these COVID happenings, right? And that's always the hard part is like there's nothing I could have done. If it's within my control and something happens that's negative, I feel like, all right, well, what? I messed up. This is where I could have done better. What can I fix? In this situation, it's like there's nothing like there's I'm it's no fault of mine.
Mm-hmm.
It's no fault of anybody's, really.
Mm-hmm.
Um other than the landlord. But it's so much of my mind where I'm at is just like what's next? And that's to some degree the stressful part, the anxiety inducing part is figuring out what's next. And I'm a person that's not limited for options, and that's a very positive thing. That's a positive place to be at. I've built something for myself that allows me to be able to, Josh was on the podcast last week and he was like, Sam, wherever he's working at, this dude has like a new job all the time. And like, yeah, I have been known for that because to me, I'm just like, I got to eat. So the person that's going to give me the best bag and the best situation for me to provide for my family or to be able to like build something for my family, that's where I'm going to go. My main loyalty, first and foremost, is to my wife and my two daughters. Um, and opportunities have kind of always opened themselves up to me. I've never been stretched for opportunities, and I feel so blessed in that sense. I think it's a lot of my own work. Yeah, I don't think it's just the world providing those for me for any specific reason. I think I do benefit from some things. I am, a heteronormative male, right? I am a man. I am like a very like strong man, like in a lot of ways, not just physically, but also just like in the way that I present myself. So those things tend to work in my favor that may not work in other people's favors. But I've grinded my ass off too to get to a point where I can consistently have opportunities and be able to continue to figure it out. But right now, it's just like where is the road heading, and trying to figure out what the universe is trying to tell me, because I feel like the universe has been trying to tell me something for the past 6 months, a year, and I've kind of been putting it off. Kind of been
Mm.
like, nah, let me make this good salary that I can help, make sure that my family's okay. Um, but now that's not there, and it's like, all right, how are you gonna react to this now? Are you gonna listen to what the universe is trying to tell you and go where you need to be,
Hmm.
or are you gonna continue just, seeking the comfort that is provided with a good salary and a position that works for you. All right. So I don't know. We talk about the alchemist, and it's like that journey, it's the journey of the unknown, and sometimes things change, and you got to be willing to bend on that journey. The path isn't only paved one way to where you want to go. That journey is going to
Yeah.
take you a whole lot of different ways. Um,
I
so
feel like
right
that's
now, yeah,
kind of liberating, right? Like in the situation to me, like the way I see it in the situation you're in, it's a little liberating for uh if the universe has been trying to shake your tree and get you to where you want to be. At least now you're not worried about like, oh man, was I chasing something that I shouldn't have been and then I lost my job because I was chasing something. Now it's like, yo, I got no choice. And at the end of it, it's like, well, what's the worst that can happen? You lose your job, you already lost that. You know what I mean? You lost the salary. Okay, so and this is me not not using my recently psychological first aid that I should have by being more receptive, and instead of trying to offer advice, just being empathetic. And I am empathetic, but what I'm saying too, like sometimes for both you and I feel like with the type of characters and individuals that we are, we need empathy, but we also need that little like, yo, you're good. You got this. You got this. And it's almost like a freebie to be like, well, fuck it. Let me try what I thought I wanted to try and what was driving me in the first place. Fucking do it. And whether it's full on success, whatever people describe as success or not, it's a success for you for saying, oh, well, here's my chance to fucking give this more of an opportunity.
100%, man. There's no. I was talking to a good friend yesterday, and it's like got to be willing to take those L's. You got to be like, these L's are gonna come. Can't just like you were saying earlier. You can't experience happiness without experience sadness, right? You have to
Mm-hmm.
experience loss and like some of the negative to really experience a positive. I do believe in that, um, because then it's just like stagnant, right? It's you're lukewarm, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know the hot, then you can't necessarily know the cold, like those sensations, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so with that, you can't really get to the W's until you really take a few L's.
Hmm.
unless you're really born with a lot of W's and the people before you had a lot of W's, then you might be able to get. But that's
Keep
like
taking
that.
W's.
That's just from like a financial standpoint, right? You still have to take L's in life, man. You got to fail, right? And not even
Yeah.
to say that this is a failure because I don't look at it as a failure. It's just like, all right, that's what it was. It happened. Am
So
I gonna sit here and what was that?
it's like a switch in direction more than anything else.
Oh.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't call it a failure in any aspect. It's more like, you know.
Yeah, it's just gonna be like, all right, let me recenter myself. Let me recenter, figure out what needs to happen. What needs to happen this week, next week, 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now. What is it going to look like in 3 months? What is it going to look like in 6 months? What is it going to look like in a year? Be willing to be flexible with it. Offline, you and I and Mikey and I've been having conversations with other people about putting some stuff in line, and that felt like a real reality. In like the not so distant future. So if anything, this kind of is like, all right, let me put that on hold for a little bit to try and make sure that I can continue to build that momentum to that. Um, but at the end of the day, it's all a part of the journey. When I hopped in the car yesterday after leaving work, the first song to come on shuffle was "Dedication" by Nipsey Hussle and Kendrick Lamar, right? And that third verse, which is Nipsey's second verse after Kendrick's verse, is like just a lesson in perseverance, and being down for the journey, and like, all right, um, there ain't no point in playing defense, right? And I heard that, and I'm like, I've been building momentum, and I have a thing going right now. I need to be on the offense. I need to figure out the way to go get it instead of being like, no, I gotta protect this. Because me just playing defense is just like yes, I'm gonna protect what I have, but that's like, oh, I need to play it safe. I need to play it
Mhm.
safe.
Mhm.
Um, and right now I feel like the world is telling me stop fucking playing it safe
Mhm.
and just fucking go. You know, stop playing it
Yeah.
safe and get out there and like listen to it. Uh, listen to what the world is telling you. Listen to what your instincts are. I had a few moments in my 20s that were very prevalent, that are just that I wish I would have listened to. I wish I would have listened to that intuition and what my heart was telling me and what the universe was telling me, because I really felt like those things, if I would have stuck to them, would have paid off in a lot of great ways.
Mm.
Just because I know my work ethic, I know my hustle, I know my grind, I know my ability to network and wiggle. Um, but there was so much self doubt at that point, right? There was so much imposter syndrome that played over in my head. So, for me now, it's like, all right, motherfucker, you ain't got no choice. What are you gonna do now? You gonna be a
Yeah.
sucker right now? You gonna be a sucker and like shrivel up and turtle up, get back in your shell and not come out, or are you gonna fucking break out that shit and punch the world in the face? I love the
Right.
world. I don't want to punch the world in the face. I want the world to thrive
You
and be
want
a
you want
beautiful
to you want
place.
to throw energy at the world. The punch is
Yeah,
just a vessel to put out your energy to it.
yeah, man,
Non-violent.
100%.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, I think it's one of those things of saying like, don't be reactionary so much, right? Like be more like we can't wait for life to just hit us, but we do have to jujitsu that shit. We're gonna take blows, but we just gotta yeah, I have no idea how to do jujitsu moves, but I'm imagining something like that.
I feel like that's more of a aikido move that you're doing instead of
Oh yeah,
jujitsu,
fuck, nobody fight
but
me. I'll still bite a motherfucker. I swear.
uh, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, you guys talked to me last night, and I was in my feels about it, but like sometimes you just have to take those moments. You take those moments when they're new to just be like to be in it and be like, you know what? I'm gonna feel what I'm feeling right now. I'm gonna wake up tomorrow. I'm gonna meditate. I'm gonna record this podcast. I'm gonna breathe. Just back. It's gonna be all right, man. It's gonna
Yeah,
it's gonna it's gonna be all right. What comes next is any number of things, but it ain't over. It's far from over, And I think that's a key part for myself and anybody within the food and beverage industry is like, all right, we talked about pivoting a little bit before on the podcast is how do you pivot and figure out uh, a way to still be engaged in like things that you really enjoy, um, but also be able to continue to make a living. Um, and so that's what I got to figure out.
Yeah, man. I think like that reminds me of. I know we talked the other day about when you were telling us about what happened about this dream that I had, and it was a crazy dream about flying. I was flying with some friends, and we get to a certain altitude, and once we get to the altitude, the plane all of a sudden started like to go upwards more, and then to the point of stalling. So the plane starts stalling, and then it starts kind of free falling upside down, and I was like, "Fuck!" Like I was starting to freak out for a bit, and I was like, "You're gonna die. This is it." And I started kind of panicking, and then my inner voice was telling me like, "Okay, yeah, you're gonna die. Like this is it, you know." But panicking isn't gonna fucking change it. It's not gonna make it any better. It's not gonna make it come quicker. It's not gonna do anything to help. So just breathe and enjoy the moments down. Like, and you have somebody next to you that's also freaking out. You got all these things. Just like breathe. And so I started breathing in the dream and real good deep breaths while you feel the fall coming. And what ended up happening was the plane needed to fucking, it was like the airport is right, the entrance to the airport's right here, and the plane's coming this way, and it needed to fucking lift up, stall, and then kind of reverse its way into the fucking landing strip. Really crazy. It's a fucking dream. But like it's one of those things to me that um it's like you don't know the direction that you need to take. You might think that you need to always land a certain way, but it might not be that way. And sometimes like you need to fucking free fall for a bit in order for a smooth landing for where you're going. So just breathe, brother. And breathe, and also like you're also getting a head start. Unfortunately. It's unfortunate to say, but you're getting a head start because we're just barely going to start seeing the tip of the iceberg of a lot of other closures that start happening for industries across the room. You know what I mean? And in a way, right now we need to be able to get on a surfboard and fucking jump back on it anytime because these waves are going to get bigger and they're going to keep coming. And you just have to get on this fucking little boogie board or whatnot and learn how to float because this thing is barely starting to hit, man. It's been 6 months of the industry of the economy being shut down. There's gonna be some effects that happen. The stock market could go up and down all at once. It could fucking Tesla could keep skyrocketing or whatever.
I mean, Tesla's gone down
I
dramatically in the
heard.
last week.
I heard. But like the fact is, we know this shit's gonna happen. We know this shit. You know what I mean? You get drunk. You have a good time. You know the hangover's coming. It's coming. And so right now we're about to start feeling some of that hangover pretty soon.
Yeah, I feel it, man. It's weird because I don't really usually remember my dreams. I'm not like that, but I've been having some pretty vivid dreams lately that are like in my head. I'm
Mm.
just like, bruh, there's something going on, and like we've talked a little bit about like energy and like godliness and stuff like that. And like, my personal belief is like we all have it within us. There's something within us that's like deep within us that like you really have to focus to unlock. And like right now, I just feel like everything is like, bro, take this time. Take this time to breathe. You have a lot of ideas in your head, and this podcast is an example of that. This podcast was an idea in my head, right? And if
Mm-hmm.
anything, this podcast should be like a lesson to me of like when you have that idea, breathe, figure out the things you need to do to put that in place,
Mm-hmm.
and go. And you'll figure it out as you move along. You'll
Mm-hmm.
figure out how to make it better. You'll figure out how to execute it properly, right? But the only way to get to a million is to get to one first, right? And it can't
Yeah.
can't get halfway to a million until you get to till you get past that first step. So right now it's
Right.
just like what is the first step? And the first step is breathing and meditation, maybe taking some time with my family, taking some time with my wife, taking some time with my daughters, taking some time really to help my wife. She's been working from home for the last few months, and the girls are now back in school on week 3. And she's managing basically, one and a half offices from home while also teaching or being the girls, uh, I don't know, e-learning teacher to some degree,
Yeah.
and trying to keep them on track with their schoolwork. This is just like, all right, man, like maybe it's just calling you to be home for a little bit, give your wife some support, and really just breathe and meditate through everything else, and it'll come to you. It'll come to you in time.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know, maybe that's fucking hippie as fuck of me, but you
Nah,
know,
that's human. I think I think it's really interesting because like, you're going through one and I'm going through the other, right? You're losing your place of work at the meantime and I'm gaining mine. And we're both going through similar and polar feelings of what do we do? And we got to remind ourselves that we're still human. Before we're bartenders, before we're barbers, before we're doctors or whatever else profession that you are, you're still a human. You still have basic human needs and desires, right? Which is basically what shelter, food, love, happiness. Right? That's what we need as people. For me, when it comes down to going back to work, my competitiveness kind of kicked in, got into overdrive, and I was like, oh shit, because it came out of this shit. We'll talk about that in a minute, but this shit came out of nowhere. From hey, this Friday you're opening outdoors to hey, this Friday you guys are back inside. Like went from 6 months of saying this shit is dangerous to fucking overnight back inside. A little fishy, but I saw my inner grinder start to fucking like be like, all right, how do I go back and attack my skills and just fucking get back to it, and not try to recover, but try to fucking just make up. And then I was just like, all right, well I could probably work 12 hours this day. I could probably do this, and then I was like getting so consumed by stress and performance that I reminded myself, like, yo, because I was starting to feel anxiety of like, was all this a dream? Was all this that you just gained during the shutdown, the time with your family, the time with your wife and your kids, and the calm and tranquility of kind of finding out that what really matters to you is just being with your family and having time? Was all that just a dream? Was that 6 months the only time you get for the rest of your life? Are you gonna fucking work the rest of your life after this? And I was like, fuck that. Like, I'm not just gonna have these 6 months during a global pandemic to look back on and be like, oh, that was the best time of my life. But I will say I'm gonna harness these moments that I got and get the knowledge that I took. So instead of working like 5 days a week or fucking 12-hour days, I was like, nah, 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 nah. I need to work. I need time for my family. I go to work to buy time to be with my family, and I needed to remind myself of that. So instead of working my usual, I was like, I'm gonna do 4 days. I'm gonna do what I need to provide for the family, and I'm gonna take care of those people that need to come in. But I'm gonna keep safety as a number one priority, and family as a number one priority. But it's so quick for us to fucking just dive in and be like, let's go. But take this time, Sam, if you can, to just remember and reassess what the priorities are. And ultimately, it's finding happiness, finding peace within yourself.
yeah, and I think you're right. Like we talked about it, and we're both people that are just like grinders, and like I think a lot of the positive about maybe how we feel about ourselves sometimes is based on like productivity and work ethic and what we can put out there into the world, right? And
Yeah.
I think, like we've talked about as well, you kind of got to reframe that. Like, as in, like, that's not the most important part of you.
Mm-hmm.
Your productivity isn't the most important aspect of who you are as a person. So, I don't know. It's always weird, like, because you're right. Just like you, I'm a person that, like, once you hit the ground, it's like hit the ground running and just gonna go. And I've talked about it
Yeah.
before on the podcast. I need my wife to stop me sometimes and be like, slow the fuck down
Mm-hmm.
before you end up running your ass into the ground or running into a wall that you're not seeing because you're just going.
Fucking
Um,
roadrunner.
yeah.
Beep beep.
But for me, it's like you said. When I went back to work initially, what was that? July. When did we start the podcast? June. So June,
Yeah.
July ish, right? Maybe end of June, beginning of July. Went back to work, and you know, again, just hit the ground running. Everything to
Mhm.
some degree that I had worked on in when it was truly shelter in place, getting into good physical shape, meditating daily, really reading a lot. Like those things had kind of started to fall off because I was because I was now working. At first, it was like 100 hours a week, and
Yeah.
then it started to slow down 80 hours, 70 hours, and now right now is around 55, 60 hours a week. Um, and so you like just hit the ground and do whatever it takes to make it work. But you're right. If anything, like just kind of breathe through it. How are you feeling in general about returning back to work now? Being on the opposite end. It's been such a
Mhm.
I know, like you were just saying, it's been such a roller coaster for y'all because it was like, all right, you're gonna open up outside. Well, never mind, we're not gonna open at all. No, now you guys are going inside.
Mhm.
And then I think it's a little bit of a reaction to Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi's
Very much so.
salon situation, and the left feeling like they have no leg to stand on if the leader of the left is getting her hair did.
Yep.
Uh, what are your general feelings right now about going back?
Like I'm excited to go back because here's an opportunity to make a little bit of money, right? Here's an opportunity. Well, I probably shouldn't have led with that, but it's an opportunity to make money because fuck yeah, right? 6 months of not doing it. But the reality is this: like I still try to talk to a lot of the people that I cut. I try to keep a cool communication with them the whole time because, like I've said before, it's more than a cut. The cut is a byproduct of our relationship, and it's a good way to go back in and check in. It's 6 months, and I think we still got another year and a half or another year to go, personally. So, yo, real quick, how's everybody doing? How you feeling? What's going on? And that's kind of what it is for me. Are we any safer than we were in the beginning? Absolutely not. Still the same fucking thing. There's still no vaccine. There's still nothing else. I already had masks in the shop for everybody in the first place. Um, so nothing's fucking changed, right? Uh, how I feel about it is like it's just a way to recharge and just touch base. But how I feel about what's going on is like, man, we have no fucking leadership anywhere. There's no leadership in the CDC. There's no leadership in the government. There's no leadership all around. People are just fucking trying to survive. And that's a failed government to me. That's a complete failed system, right? From the very beginning of saying that, masks are only if you're sick. Stupid. You should have just been fucking honest from the get and said, like, yo, we're low on masks. That would have been a little bit better, right? People could have still made their own things or whatever. Um, as for like Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. Oh man, what a fucking like she had such an opportunity to support businesses at that moment, to support people, to say, "Hey, you're right. I fucked up." And admit your fuck up and say you could have easily said like, "Yeah, I felt the need to go get serviced. It was an opportunity that I can go and help out an independent business, an independent stylist in an independent business or whatever, and help them out." And just like plenty of other Americans in here, or other Californians, sometimes we kind of do certain things. Like that would have made her more relatable to people. But to say like I didn't know and they set me up and I'm like, bro, come on, you work in the fucking you're in DC, bro. You know what I mean? You live in San Francisco. You can't fucking like ignorance to the law is not an abolished or whatever the fuck that saying is, right? Where you can't use that as an excuse. How many people have been fucking arrested, cuffed up, stopped, and said, and people have told them like, well, just because you didn't know the law doesn't mean you didn't break the law. And fuck you. That's just how I feel. Like you can't. The left has no leg to stand on, and the right is fucking winning on a lot of shit because they're calling a lot of bullshit that the left has been doing. And as much as I hate to say that, it's just like, yeah, I've never been like, I'm not a fucking Democrat. I'm not a Republican. Like Malcolm taught me, like, dog, they put you first. I mean, you put them first and they put you last. I fucking recognize that. I'm going after policy. I'm going after where do you stand on shit. But the fact of the matter is, politicians are still fucking pieces of shit. You know what I mean? They'll still inflate numbers or do shit to prove their agenda. And this was one of those demonstrations where it's like, man, you're full of shit.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's hypocrisy on both sides,
Mm-hmm.
but the right really is winning that just like marketing campaign of exposing the left's hypocrisy. Like, it's I
Dude,
don't know. It's
it's embarrassing.
but I think what it is oftentimes the left feels like they have a moral high ground. And then when they get caught up doing something that's like
Well,
against what they've been talking about, then it's like, all right,
and
now
that's
you're
on
a hypocrite, bro.
them. That's on them for trying to take that moral high ground. And like the thing is that their marketing strategy for the left is constantly bashing the right. Right, saying, "Oh, fucking dry snitching," or just snitching. Period. Look what they did. How dare you? And then it's like you get caught up doing some of the similar shit because you're in the same circle. You know what I mean? You do the same fucking shit they do. So I felt that way before when I used to claim certain religious beliefs that there's always this fucking like, holier than thou type thing and blah blah. It's like, yo, bro, we all sin. We all do the same shit. Quit fucking bashing on people that do human shit, acting like they're fucking poor or like not poor, but acting like they have a poor moral character, poor moral ethics. And acknowledge that, yo, we all fuck up. Our goal is to be better than we were yesterday. Stop riding on that. If that's your fucking whole fucking goal or your MO on how you're gonna win this fucking election, you're fucking stupid. Like I need to quit cussing on this podcast. I was editing my clips the other day and I was like, God damn, Charlie. Can you
Hey,
go
man.
one time without saying the F word? So sorry, y'all.
I mean, it is a bleeped out version of this podcast title, the just F and go,
F and
but
go. You're
it's
right.
in the
You're
spirit.
right,
It's in the
Sam.
spirit,
Yo, this
it's in the spirit.
denogonizer got a
It's a
kick.
yeah, it's the denog, man. It's a denogonizer.
Yeah.
What is that? 10%, 11% beer?
9.75.
Yeah. It's too much for
Let me go back to my decaf coffee.
an afternoon. Is it decaf? Are you drinking decaf?
I am. Because I ran out of the Brazilian lady. What's it called? The Brazilian. It's from Red Bay Cafe or Red Bay Coffee. Make sure you guys stop by, check some of that out. It's a medium roast, very light, very actually flavorful. Go ahead and check that out one time.
I was at Red Bay yesterday in the morning. Shout out to Red Bay Coffee, black owned roastery coffee shop. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We could talk about. I don't even think we could talk about politics all day because I think that our stances are fairly similar and just like I don't whatever.
Yeah.
Like I don't just like you said, I'm chasing more after like what are you standing for? What is the policy that you're trying to push? I don't care
Yeah.
what you're telling me about the left or the right. Like
Yeah.
if you are putting into place policy that I can support and that I get behind, then cool.
Yep.
I can rock with you. I can rock with you until you lie to me and do some dumb shit. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, politics is just, especially in America, it's just an ugly game. I mean, politics everywhere a lot of times is ugly, but um, the two party system here is just divided this country more
Yep.
than
And the
anything.
Democratic Party is super fucking divided itself. Right? It's generationally divided, and morally, I feel. But like, you got people like you got to go. Your time is up. You did good back in the day, maybe not,
But
but
that's
your time is up.
but that's that if anything um is I guess what am I trying to say here? That if anything is a reason for us to really try to engage not just our age groups but the age groups that come after us to really put their power behind voting and
Yep.
policy, not just at the national federal level with the president, but also with local officials and
Absolutely.
understanding who your local officials are, who the people that are running for office in your city, in your county are, and really understanding their politics and their policy. What are you gonna say?
That's gonna be the next fucking episode. If we don't have a guest next, we're gonna fucking talk about
Or we
local
might have
government.
somebody, or we might have a local official
We
next.
may have a
You know,
local official
that might be a
explain
thing.
their policy and explain the importance of local government because that shit is the most. Fuck the president, man. The presidents have been around through all this fucking shit forever. They ain't got no control over that shit. You gotta fucking point the finger at your local city at your local city government and the DA and everybody else. If you got a problem, you literally fucking live with those motherfuckers, man. They're right there. Go
Yeah.
talk to them at fucking city hall. Go talk to them at fucking assembly. And you got power in your fucking voice because there's only like 12 people that show up to those things. So
And the
you bring your
reality,
squad.
100%.
You bring your squad of fucking 6 or you bring your squad of fucking 18. And you got the loudest voice in the room, man. You don't need that many people when it's about your city.
100%. And in a city, I'm not sure what's the size of Alameda population wise. I'd imagine that
Small.
Alameda's voter turnout percentage is higher than Hayward's. So, 'cause Hayward has a population of about 160,000.
Yeah.
I think when I checked, there was only like 15,000 people that voted for, local officials. So
The
your
cool
vote
thing about
counts a lot more at the local level than it does at
hands
the
down,
national federal level, right?
hands down, and being able to hit them up, like, look, real talk. Whenever there's any opening fucking rumors happen for the barbering community or anything else like that, I literally go hit up our representative for District 18, which covers Alameda and a little bit of like Oakland and area. I hit up Senator Nancy Skinner. Like, I email these motherfuckers. It's easy to email. They'll give you a fucking generic reply from somebody else, but you could put pressure. It's right there. And I voted for him. Like, I remember, okay, I voted for you, which gives me more of an incentive to say, let me hit these people up. Yo, what's up, blood? I put you up in the office, or I helped put you in the office. What you gonna do for me? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's going on here? Or clarify this for me real quick. It's so much easier because I can't hit up Trump. I ain't gonna tweet that motherfucker. You know what I mean? So it's like, but I can hit you up.
Blocked.
Yep.
Blocked. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Have you been in touch with the rest of the team over at the shop? You guys
I have been.
pretty
I,
communicative. How's everybody else feeling about the return? How's the team just in general about, like, are
right.
there some people that are more gung ho about it, or like are there mixed feelings? You don't have to name names, but just
Right.
talk a little bit more in
It's a
detail
small
about,
shop,
like, yeah, just talk a
so.
little bit more in detail about like the general feels of everybody
I
at the
think
shop
the
and
general
how
feels
the
is that
team
we
does.
all understand. Yeah, I think we all understand that we're gonna close back down soon. Right, like, it's a matter of time. So it's go in there, take care of as many as you can safely, um, and just kind of refresh yourself a bit. Get back to that feeling of what you love doing, and get back to like helping people out. But understand that this is probably gonna be short lived more than anything. So they're I think most of us feel the same way. Most of us also want to just go back in and cut. And and then some of us just, hey, I need to eat real quick for a bit, man. This just getting kind of tough after a while. Especially if you're trying to make moves like you were like, what you alluded to too, of like whether you get you're going to get a new housing, right? If I'm trying to buy a house or if I'm trying to get into another apartment, like, I can't fucking prove anything if I'm not working. If I have no way of proving my income besides like unemployment, they might not look at that in the nicest light. So there's a lot of things. PPP, if anybody got it, that shit fucking ran out real quick. You know what I mean? It ain't like it's a fucking gift that you're undeserving of. Fuck that. You pay taxes into this shit. You know what I mean? Whenever we start feeling guilty about, like, I'm a big proponent of taxes. I think pay that shit, man. And pay more than you need to. You'll get the refund back if you have to. But the end of it, it's when situations like this happen, believe me, I'm going to get my money because I pay a lot of taxes into this shit. So I'm down to get that money back. I don't feel guilty about taking unemployment or anything else like that because I have no problem reinvesting into anything that we need to, because to me it's about the people. It's about making sure that people fucking can eat and shit. So get your money, bro. You paid into that shit. So I think that's kind of just a feeling. It's gonna be good while it lasts. For barbering, something we talk about, and Mark always reminds us too, is feast or famine. Right? It's feast or famine when it comes to like cutting hair. Yeah, you could survive during a recession. You could survive during Great Depressions, but obviously we can't work right now for the moment during pandemics, and we're working on changing that shit. But it's feast or famine. So you got to be cool with your money. You got to know how to stock that shit up. So my goal is, all right, I'm gonna save. I'm gonna save because I don't know how long this shit's gonna last.
Stack that bread, baby.
Basically, there's a lot of breathing that needs to go on with all the changes that we're having. Right. That's ultimately what it comes. I think for anybody trying to get adjusted to to a certain lifestyle or a certain way of living, you just gotta hold off on that. Like hold off on any consistent or any constant. Like it's right now it's just fucking like wiggling. All we're doing is wiggling because the whole nation's doing it, the whole world is doing it. Just wiggle for the meantime until we get back into this thing. So Sam, I want to thank you for your input today, and also like, man, don't trip, bro. Like we're gonna get this. And the cool thing about community is that when one person feels low, the rest of it brings it up. You know what I mean? We're just gonna keep on bringing everybody up in this moment.
100,000%, man. I agree. It's all about the wiggle, baby. Gotta learn how to wiggle, and then gotta figure out how to keep wiggling.
Hell yeah. So everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to episode 11, and for the 500 downloads and all the accolades that we've been getting. To Australia, I see you, Australia. To Germany, I see you, Germany. And to Canada, I see y'all, Canada, man. Everybody else here in the Bay Area too, Fremont, Hayward for sure, always putting it down. Alameda, I see y'all too. Newark, we need y'all. We need you, Newark. I'm talking to you, Jerry. Nah, but real talk, thank you very much for tuning in, for supporting. And yeah, man, if you guys got any comments, any kind of things you want to listen to, any thoughts on what's happening, please leave a comment, like, subscribe, hit us up on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, and Instagram, man. We always check that stuff, and we always appreciate the support. So once again, this has been Just F and Go Podcast with Samuel Jimenez and Charlie Herrera Villar. We will see you guys next week. Take care, y'all.